Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the quiet town of Maplewood, an unsettling stillness enveloped the streets as twilight descended. Nestled among the vibrant fall foliage, the hum of evening settled around the charming homes, each with their own stories to tell. Yet, on the fringes of this picturesque community lay a darkness yet to be unveiled. It was a typical Thursday evening, the kind that saw families gathered around dinner tables, the aroma of comfort food wafting through the air. But inside the Chen household, a discordant note disrupted the peace. When 17-year-old Lena Chen didn't return home from school, it initially sparked little concern. Adolescents often lost track of time, drifting toward friends, late-night study sessions, or the allure of the nearby lakeside. As hours turned into unease, Lena's mother, May, felt the chaos stir within her. The clock on the wall ticked, each second echoing louder than the last. By 9 p.m., that chaos erupted into panic. The telephone rang, breaking the tension like shattering glass. The call came from Lena's best friend, Sophie, her voice trembling with uncertainty. She didn't come to the library today, and she left her phone at home. I thought she might be with you. The words hung heavy between them like a gathering storm. A mother's instinct kicked in, an inarticulate fear spiraling into something palpable. Mai grabbed her jacket, her heart racing, as she bolted out the door, the shadows of trees at the end of the street looming ominously. She could feel dread clawing at her, a sensation sharpened by the realization that something was terribly wrong. Tonight, the cozy glow of Maplewood streetlights would do little to shield the horrors about to unfold. The victim. Lena Chen was the embodiment of promise. With her sparkling dark eyes that mirrored her fierce determination, she veered through life with ambition and kindness. As a senior at Maplewood High School, she navigated the labyrinth of teenage years, juggling AP classes, extracurricular activities, and a part-time job at the local cafe. Jitters. Friends often marveled at her resilience, a trait that only deepened her charisma. Beneath this facade of sweetness lay an ever-scrolling list of aspiration. Lena dreamed of studying environmental science and had already secured a scholarship to a prestigious university. She often shared her passion for sustainability with her peers, organizing beach cleanups and environmental awareness campaigns. The admiration she commanded was profound. Peers trusted her wisdom, and teachers respected her work ethic. But even heroes bear burdens in silence. Recently, Lena had confided in Sophie about feeling overwhelmed, a sentiment that seemed to weight her youthful exuberance. Rigid schedules and endless responsibilities compounded the pressures of adolescence. Sometimes, I just want to escape, she'd whispered one afternoon, a haunting glimmer of sadness fleeting past her lips. But when Lena smiled, she masked her fears, offering only a glimpse into the complexities of her young life. With the absence of Lena casting a pall over the community, a danger lurked in the shadows of familiarity. Friends gathered at her home, and social media erupted in a collective plea to find the missing girl. The hashtag #FindLena became an audible echo, each post ringing like a bell, signaling the desperation felt in every corner of Maple. Yet, even in the face of hope, a nagging fear lingered at a reality that the tightly woven tapestry of their lives had unwound, resting on the precipice of chaos. As night deepened, The world held its breath. Unbeknownst to her loved ones, last glimmers of Lena's normal life numbingly waned, irrevocably intertwined with an unforeseen darkness. The crime scene. As the sun dipped below the horizon, surrendering Maplewood to darkness, local law enforcement began their search for Lena Chen. The air turned crisp, heavy with a sense of urgency that hung palpably over the town. A call had come in from a resident who spotted something strange in the wooded area just off Moss Lane, a stretch of trees that bordered the school and the town's center. Officers arrived on the scene, flashlight beams cutting through the murky night. The rustling of leaves broke the quiet, contrasted by the heavy, muted footfalls of the police as they navigated the uneven terrain. Each officer moved with a grim determination, aware that they were no longer just looking for a missing girl. They were preparing for the worst. As they pushed deeper into the forest, the ground became softer, a squelching mix of earth and fallen leaves. Then they found it a small clearing away from prying eyes, illuminated by the cold glow of their flashlight. Littered among the underbrush were discarded items: a school backpack torn at the seams, a few scattered textbooks, and a single silver bracelet engraved with the initials LC. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. These were signs of a struggle. A shiver danced down one of the officer's spines as he pointed his flashlight toward the base of a tree. There, partially obscured by overgrown weeds, lay a dark blue hoodie that belonged to Lena. Its fabric was stained. A chilling realization swept over the team. The stirring sensation of dread that lumbered just beneath the surface had now burst forth, confirming their fears. The lead detective, Tim Robinson, crouched down, examining the scene. "We need to secure this area," he instructed, his voice strained but steady. They roped off the perimeter with yellow tape, a makeshift boundary marking the beginnings of an investigation that would unravel not just the search for a girl, but the very fabric of the town itself. Back in Maplewood, the cries of Lena's family reverberated as they awaited news, clutching one another in desperate hope. But in the shadows of the woods, the truth began to weave its grim tale, propelling the small town into a chasm of anxiety, suspicion, and heartache. The search for Lena Chen had transformed from a rescue mission to a grim hunt for answers, and the clock was ticking. The early investigation. With the dawn breaking over Maplewood, a haunting light revealed evidence of the night's discoveries. Under the weight of solemnity, the detectives assembled at the Rodriguez family's home, an unassuming structure nestled between manicured lawn. The atmosphere was heavy as they gathered crucial information from Lena's distraught parents, whose faces were drawn with worry and relentless grief. Detective Robinson opened the conversation gently. "We understand this is difficult, but we need to know everything about Lena's recent days. My Chen," her voice tremulous, searched for the strength to articulate her thoughts. She was upset about school, overwhelmed with her college applications, May admitted, nervously wringing her hands. But she never indicated she wanted to leave. She loved her life here. "Please, you have to find her." Detective Robinson nodded, taking notes while glancing at Lena's father, who remained taut as a string, the veins on his forehead pulsating with tension. "Was she seeing anyone? Friends? A boyfriend? Anyone who might have been in her life that we should know about?" May faltered, searching through her memories. "She was close with Sophie, but I don't think she had a boyfriend, at least not one we knew of," she said, pausing to collect herself. She was more focused on her studies than dating. As the investigation continued, officers combed through Lena's social media, reaching out to friends for leads. Sophie's recounting of the last day they had spent together revealed a crucial detail. Lena seemed different, she said quietly, her voice edged with guilt. She received a message that upset her, but she wouldn't tell me what it was. She only said she needed some space. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together a picture of Lena's life before that fateful Thursday. Each interview unearthed new layers, revealing conflict, potential feuds, and the pressures of adolescence. Rumors flew like wildfire through the school hallways, and as local news outlets began covering Lena's case, the whispers started. Was it abduction, a runaway, or something darker altogether? As they retraced Lena's last known steps, the weight of despair clung to the investigation. A landscape that once held innocence was now riddled with uncertainty, and the reality began to set in. What had once been a peaceful town was now forever changed, haunted by the plight of a missing girl. The search for Lena had morphed into a journey deeply entwined with fear as they began digging into the mysteries lurking just beneath the surface. The dead ends. Days turned into a week, and the search for Lena Chen entered a perplexing limbo, each hour amplifying the anxiety that gripped Maplewood. The community, which once reveled in calm, united efforts to scour every inch of the town, desperate to find signs of their beloved girl. Yet, with each passing day, exhaustion settled in, not just for law enforcement, but for those who held Lena dear. Detective Robinson convened a meeting of officers and volunteers, the air thick with fatigue and hushed emotions. A large map of Maplewood, dotted with tacks and colored markers, laid sprawled across the table. Numerous sightings had come in, many of them mere rumors fueled by fear leading them to dead ends. A couple claimed to have spotted a girl fitting Lena's description near an abandoned barn outside town. Yet it turned out to be an easy misidentification of a teenage girl with dark hair and a hoodie. Another tip involved a suspicious figure lingering by the woods. However, that too bore no fruit. The reports only amplified frustration. Detective Robinson rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of every expectation crashing down on him. "We need to broaden our focus," he said, addressing the officers around him. "Let's dig deeper into her social connections. Friends, classmates, and even new acquaintances. We can't afford to overlook anything." The following days were spent sifting through Lena's digital footprint, analyzing messages, and combing through her text threads. Robinson pulled Lisa, the tech analyst, aside. "Can you see if Lena had any messages or interactions that could give us a clue? Maybe something hidden in plain sight." Lisa was already on it. "I've downloaded everything from her social media, but there's a message from someone named Ryan. It looks like they were chatting more than we thought. I'll reach out to him and see if he can provide more detail." As leads ebbed and flowed, with investigators feeling lost amidst repeated misdirections, the community's morale waned. Flyers hung limply from lampposts, each flutter of paper echoing a silent plea for hope that grew more distant. Lena's family grappled with their spiral into despair. Silence turned into grief-stricken conversations about what could have possibly gone wrong. The investigation had painted a haunting portrait of loss, and the deeper they delved, the more complex the truth became. Each lead that faded into ambiguity felt like stepping off a cliff into an abyss, a chilling reminder that sometimes the truth was a tangled web waiting to ensnare them in darkness, just when they thought they could see the light. A break in the case. Amidst the disheartening monotony, a breakthrough came like a beacon of hope, piercing through the fog of despair. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Detective Robinson received a call from Lisa. the tech analyst who had been poring over Lena's online activity with unyielding dedication. "Detective, you need to see this," she said, her tone laced with urgency. "I found something that might matter." Meeting her in the bustling command center set up in the community center, Robinson watched as Lisa pulled up the chat logs on her computer screen. I traced Lena's last communication. The conversations with Ryan were more consistent than we initially thought. They became increasingly intense in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. They were discussing meeting in person. Robinson leaned closer, eyes narrowing as he scanned the screen. Beneath casual banter about school and classes, he caught glimpses of tension brewing just beneath the surface. "What do you think he knows?" he inquired, urgency licking at his word. I reached out to Ryan, and he agreed to meet. He seemed anxious, but I think he knows more than he's letting on. Lisa replied, typing furiously to confirm the details of their meeting. Later that evening, they arranged to meet Ryan at a nearby cafe. As Detective Robinson sat across from the teenager, he observed the boy's restlessness, fidgeting hands and darting eyes, set against the backdrop of the small, bustling establishment. "Ryan," Robinson started, his voice steady and calm. "I need to know about your conversations with Lena. Did she mention anything about being in trouble or feeling unsafe?" Ryan gulped, the fear spilling from his eyes. "No, not really," he stammered. "But she told me she was mixed up with someone dangerous. A guy she barely knew, but he was obsessive. She didn't want to say much. I thought she was just being dramatic at first." Robinson felt a jolt of realization. This wasn't just a missing persons case. It was evolving into something more sinister. "Did she ever tell you who this guy was?" "Just that he had a quick temper and was too intense for her liking." He said she wanted to end things, but was scared of his reaction. That's when we started talking more often, and then she just stopped replying. As Ryan's voice faltered, a chilling understanding dawned. There existed an unknown figure in Lena's life, a presence of potential peril he had never accounted for. The puzzle was expanding, filled with pieces that hinted at a dark reality. Robinson left the cafe with a heavy heart and a simmering urgency. Now the search for Lena needed to pivot towards this mysterious individual, the man who might have been lurking in the shadows, entwined in the fate of a girl who had once breathed life into Maplewood Street. The investigation, they hoped, was at last heading down a path that could lead to the truth and perhaps to Lena. The suspect. The clock struck midnight, echoing throughout the nearly deserted police precinct as Detective Robinson scrutinized the information gathered about Lena's mysterious connection. They had a name. Now Ryan had mentioned a figure that loomed over Lena's life, a person whose mere existence sent ripples of fear through her. That figure was the key to unraveling the knot of uncertainty. Investigators tapped into their network, scouring social media and school records for any trace of the man Lena had been entangled with. After a few hours of painstaking discovery, a name surfaced: Jake Larkin, a troubled young man who had recently transferred to Maplewood High. Known for his brooding demeanor and unusually intense interests, Jake had garnered whispers among students, his reputation littered with accounts of volatility and aggression. Detective Robinson's team uncovered social media posts revealing several confrontations and altercations, sparking concerns about Jake's behavior. As leads coalesced, they learned that Jake had taken a keen interest in Lena, initially charming her with his passion for the same environmental causes she loved. But as Ryan had pointed out, things had turned sour quickly. Early the next morning, officers located Jake at his home, a drab single-story residence dotted with peeling paint and shadows. Detectives approached the front door with caution, hearts racing with the anticipation of answering questions that had clouded the air for too long. When Jake answered, his expression was cool but dismissive, a thin veil of indifference draped across an uneasy tension. "What do you want?" he asked, crossing his arms over his well-worn hoodie. Detective Robinson maintained eye contact, asserting authority. "We're here regarding Lena Chen. We understand you two were close. We'd like to ask you some questions." A frown flickered on Jake's face. "Yeah, what about her?" "Let's talk about your relationship. How did it end?" Robinson pressed, gauging the man's reaction as he shifted uneasily, his fingers tapping anxiously against his arms. "She wanted to break things off. Said I was too intense. I didn't. I didn't force her, all right? She just started avoiding me." The air crackled with underlying tension. Robinson leaned in, scrutinizing Jake's every flicker of emotion. "But you were aware she was feeling threatened, weren't you? You knew she wanted to end things just before she disappeared." Jake's facade cracked momentarily. "I told her to be careful, that she needed to watch out for herself. I didn't want to hurt her." Though his voice remained steady, the hint of desperation gnawed at the edges of his composure. This was a man balancing on the precipice, one who seemed both troubled yet defensive, shrouded with an air of desperate denial. As the questioning continued, a cloud of uncertainty billowed around Jake. Was he an innocent man, or was he hiding the very truth that could lead them to Lena? The detective knew they couldn't overlook him now. Jake Larkin had transformed from a person of interest to a genuine suspect, entangled in the web of Lena's disappearance. And with each moment passing, the urgency to sift through the shadows grew thick as night, pressing on them like a burden that needed releasing. The truth intertwined within the darkness. The trial. Months rolled by, each day filled with an agonizing void as the search for Lena Chen turned from a frantic plea into an intricate legal battle. The investigation tightened around Jake Larkin as circumstantial evidence mounted, and before long, cool whispers filled the courtroom, echoing through the halls where justice hoped to prevail. On a gray Tuesday morning, the trial commenced beneath the harsh glare of the fluorescent lights. Families, friends, and community members filled the seats, anticipation palpable in the air. Lena's family, prepared for the emotional journey ahead, sat together, faces etched with hope and fear. At the defense table, Jake maintained a posture of reluctant defiance, flanked by attorneys ready to challenge every accusation leveled against him. The prosecution laid out its case methodically, presenting evidence that painted a picture of escalating obsession. A series of text messages between Lena and Jake were revealed, chronicling moments of intimidation mingled with affection. Viewers listened in rapt attention as details emerged about the nature of their relationship, the instability, the threats concealed within passionate exchanges. As colleagues from Maplewood High took the stand, they recounted interactions with Jake, where behaviors that straddled the line of fascination and control blurred the boundaries of friendship. Their testimonies triggered murmurs in the courtroom. It was becoming clear that Jake's attachment to Lena had tumbled down a precarious path. Yet defense attorney Sarah Klein was relentless. She countered with Jake's insistence that he never harmed Lena. He characterized their relationship as one of youthful infatuation gone wrong, deflecting responsibility onto the complexities of teenage angst. Lena often spoke of running away, she argued, pointing to the possibility that Lena had fabricated this narrative to escape her life. As the trial wore on, moments of tension arose with each witness called, and each cross-examination that pierced through the silence. Detective Robinson took the stand, recounting his findings and the meticulous investigation that led them to Jake. "We discovered no signs of a struggle in the home of Jake Larkin," he stated firmly. But the unanswered questions lingered. Where was Lena? Jake, stoic but visibly strained, began to unravel under the weight of the accusations. Each question directed at him was like a hammer against glass. Fragile defenses cracking. The eyewitness accounts, the messages, the insinuations painted a psychological profile of a young man who struggled to manage his emotions, conjuring a web of potential danger. As days bled into a week of testimony, the prosecution's narrative unfolded a tragic tale of obsession. Lena's absence loomed like a specter over the proceedings. Her laughter was replaced with haunted silence. Finally, the trial culminated in closing arguments that reverberated through the courtroom. The judge instructed the jury to focus on the evidence presented, the ambiguity of innocence and guilt captivating their thoughts. All that remained was the verdict, the climactic moment when the truth would unveil itself, a reflection of justice that could determine the fate of Jake Larkin and perhaps even offer the slightest glimmer of hope to the Chen family. As the jury filed back in, the courtroom fell silent, hearts pounding in their chests. A murmur rippled through the spectators. The moment had arrived. The verdict was life-changing, not just for the man on trial, but for an entire community still haunted by the chilling disappearance of one of their own. The aftermath. The gavel struck, its sound reverberating through the courtroom like the finale of a tragic symphony. As the judge announced the verdict, the silence that enveloped the space was suffocating, every breath held in anticipation. When the word guilty echoed off the walls, it set in motion a wave of emotions that traveled through the crowded room. Relief surged through Lena's family like a tide, mingled with lingering grief for what they had lost. In the days following the trial, the community attempted to heal, though the scars of Lena's absence ran deep. The Chen family faced the media onslaught. Microphones and cameras jostled for attention. Mai and her husband, Liang, expressed their sorrow and gratitude towards those who rallied for their daughter. "We lost our light," Mai said, her voice trembling yet resolute. "But we will continue to fight for her memory. Lena deserves that." Jake Larkin's sentencing arrived with a degree of finality, yet not without the heartache that continued to shadow Maplewood. He received a significant prison term, but questions remained unanswered, texture to the tragedy still unexplored, the heart of the case buried under dust. Had he acted alone? What really happened in those final hours leading up to Lena's disappearance? As time passed, Detective Robinson remained haunted by the darkness that stained their conclusion. He often visited the spot in the woods where Lena's belongings were found, grappling with the knowledge that justice had been served, but that truth remained partly shrouded. Empty streets whispered questions at dusk, and he listened each memory of Lena reverberating through the trees. Friends of Lena tempted to return to a semblance of normalcy. But her absence marked an indelible shift in their lives. Sophie, once Lena's closest confidante, grappled with guilt and confusion. She organized memorial events to honor her friend, creating foundations focused on teen safety and awareness. They painted murals and planted trees, a legacy rooted in the fight against the darkness Lena had encountered. Community meetings flourished, as residents came together to discuss mental health resources and establish support for those burdened with emotional struggles. Maplewood began to weave the threads of hope amidst the tapestry of loss. Through widespread outreach, the town found purpose via collective effort to ensure that no one else would ever feel the isolation Lena had fought against. In time, Lena's memory blossomed into a source of inspiration. Events blossomed under her name. Scholarships for young activists and environmentalists, fundraisers for local shelters, and awareness campaigns for mental health were themes that echoed throughout the once quiet town. While the ache of their loss lingered, there was solace in knowing they had ignited a change. Maplewood was forever altered, not by the shadow that loomed, but by the legacy of a girl whose light, extinguished far too soon, ignited a beacon of hope and transformation in its womb. Each year on the anniversary of her disappearance, the town gathered to light candles, honoring a spirit that would not be forgotten. The day would remind them all. Awareness, immunity, and strength could emerge even from the darkest of truths. Reflection. As the seasons changed, painting Maplewood in hues of gold and crimson, Detective Robinson found himself reflecting on the case that had haunted him deep. The closure provided by a conviction brought a sense of justice, yet it did little to quiet the echoes of regrets that seemed to linger in the very air they breathed. Each time he drove past Lena's favorite cafe, he recalled her radiant smile, the hopes and dreams she carried in those bright eyes. He engaged in conversations with community members, learning how each individual had been impacted in profound ways. Lena's absence had forged connections. People opened up about their struggles, fears, and triumphs, standing together in solidarity, turning grief into a collective journey toward healing. In the aftermath of tragedy, a real transformation began to take root, not just within the town, but within Robinson himself. As he made his rounds, he fostered collaborations between mental health professionals and schools, understanding that awareness could help others avoid Lena's fate. Through his efforts, he discovered a deeper passion for preventing future tragedies. The case had not merely been about solving a crime, but a reminder that vigilance, empathy, and connection could cultivate change. Lena's memory remained alive, a guiding spirit driving the community toward hope, even amidst the pain. The trees had begun to shed their leaves as autumn wore on, signifying a natural cycle of life and loss, a poignant reminder that even in darkness, growth could emerge. Maplewood would continue to remember Lena, not only as a victim, but as a catalyst for change, forever etched in the town's heart.